Alright, so the setup I do for this strat is really consistent, so I wanted to explain it because there isn't really a good tutorial out there. And it's not a very good strat for intermediate or level runners. It's really only useful if you're a high level runner because it doesn't save that much time and it's way harder than the normal mansion clip strategy. It also saves less time in 120, but it's worth implementing if you want to get a top time. So starting off, I want to briefly establish that there's 3 parts to this trick. The first is getting onto this ledge here below the mansion. The second is backflipping and clipping into the wall here. And the third is jumping into the cage with Luigi in it. So when I start off, I land on this planet and I do a landing cancel and then long jump upright. I'm aiming to land right off this edge here. And if I land on this edge here and hold down, I can do a single jump and Luigi will instantly turn to face directly down, which is important for the next step. So here, I'm going to curve out to the right and then spin back toward the left. The reason why I do that is because there's an invisible wall right here that prevents you from getting onto the ledge. So you need to go around it. The other issue is that you need to be facing directly down when you land on the invisible ledge because it's very thin. And if you're not facing directly down, you'll get kicked off the ledge. If you fall, you can try to grab this pull star, but it's not easy to do, and it loses enough time to where you can probably not save time with this trick if you fail it. Once I'm on this ledge, I use a visual cue to help me set up the position for the backflip. On the very left edge of this screen, on the front of this platform, you can see that there are 2 bricks, and there's this dark space between them. This is the part of the setup that's different from the Boolean setup a lot of people use. What I do is I try to make it so that this left brick is just barely off screen. So the camera, the left edge of the camera is inside this dark section while showing as much of it as possible. So you can see me line up there. Once I have lined up to my satisfaction, ensuring that I'm facing directly forward, which is why I jump and move in the air, I hold Z and then press A to backflip. Right after I press A, I hold down left, and immediately after that, I switch to left. If you hold down left for too long, you'll pop out of the wall. If you don't hold it long enough, you'll fall down past the wall, and you'll either die or you'll be able to grab this pull star. It depends on where the camera is. But with this setup, positioning the camera the way I do, it's extremely difficult unless you totally whiff the control stick input to actually fall and miss the ledge. And that's the reason why this setup is better, in my opinion. And it's also the reason why it's more consistent is because you put the camera you position yourself in a more precise spot. So watch the input display here. You can see how quick that switches from down left to left. This is a lot easier with notches. Tibbs has tried this setup on 3D All-Stars, and he said that he didn't find it to be as consistent. You also need to make sure that you're holding left when you land, because if you're inside this wall and you're not moving, you'll get kicked out of the wall, because the game will figure out you're inside a wall and it will push you out. You also need to hold directly left. If you hold even a little bit down or a little bit up, you'll fall out of the wall, because you're walking on a very, very small seam here, and there isn't any ground forward in front of the wall. Once I'm inside the wall, it's simply a matter of just single jump spinning into the cage with Luigi. You can do a long jump into the cage. It's not really that much faster. And the big problem with actually getting into the cage is that if you miss the jump into the cage, you'll fall down here. Best case scenario, you die. Worst case scenario, you'll fall into the library that's earlier in the level where you collect the star chips, and that loses a ton of time. Probably, it could be in excess of a minute if you spend a long time getting out of there, because it also screws up the camera and makes it extremely difficult to actually navigate. So the jump into the cage is arguably the actual riskiest part of this strat, because if you mess it up, it usually ends in catastrophe. But it's also pretty easy to do. As long as you are moving, you should be able to stay inside this wall. Again, here, if you fall forward down, you didn't hold down left long enough. If you pop out of the wall, you held it for too long. Legitimately, I tried to hold down left for as little time as I possibly can. This will take some getting used to, but once you are good at it, getting on this ledge should be the hard part. The backflip you should be able to get absolutely every single time. There are other setups that involve placing this camera, the edge of the camera, in between these two bricks just somewhere. And there's also a setup that involves spinning onto the ledge. There's also a setup with Mario that involves ledge grabbing and then dropping off the ledge and spinning. But I find this to be extremely consistent and also really fast. I'll also upload this full video with input display, and I'll link it in the description of this video so that you can watch it for yourself.